I think the church has to be careful in terms of political involvement. We don't want to become the vassal to either party, or if we're in other countries, to the government. And it would be very easy to sell our souls. However, I think it's very clear that even being under the rule of the Gentile kings, that God's people should seek the good of those that are above them, and they should speak on issues of justice and righteousness in society, because we play that role in society. We are the pillar and ground of the truth, and we must speak the truth on the issues. This always comes from a stance of the gospel, but it is part of us doing the good works that Titus would speak of in Titus chapter 3 inside of our society. I think of an example recently in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. The Washington, D.C. proper, the district, recently came into agreement to allow same-sex marriages to be recognized in Washington, D.C. However, in Maryland, we stood against it, and it did not pass the Maryland General Assembly by the skin of our teeth. The difference seems to be that the church spoke up with just a little more force and was a little more organized to speak to this political matter that crosses an issue important to us, marriage. And in Maryland, the pastors in the churches spoke to their leaders more and said, this is not right, and we can't stand for this. In D.C., it'll go to referendum, but in Maryland, we probably would have lost on referendum. In an issue like that, if the church does not stand up and speak, then who's going to be a voice for righteousness in society to say, we see an issue like this as wrong, or we see an issue like an abortion as wrong, or we see the way a certain segment of the poor are treated as wrong or treated wrongly by the passing of some law. The church needs to speak up rightly and have at least that much involvement. Otherwise, we're really quite useless in society. We could be guilty of the very things that Marx would accuse us of. Religion is only the opium of the people. It just deadens things when they can't deal with this life. But if they want to come out into the real world, or like the movie said a few years ago, if they want to be a true man and not live in the bubble where there's somebody pulling levers all the time, then come out here and be engaged with the rest of us on these issues. We don't want to be useless. We want to be involved meaningfully in society and let someone hear, God has something to say about this. If I could, let me add this. In 1995, there was a political event that was similar to, broadly speaking, it ran in the veins of an African-American protest march, and that was the Million Man March. And the churches were divided on it, not simply because Farrakhan was leading it, but because it was a political issue. And I had other fellow pastors, I wasn't a pastor at that time, but I knew other pastors who said, we need to be apolitical on this issue. But consider the issue. There were men who were going to say, we feel we need to atone for what is wrong before God, and we want to better our families. Well, it wasn't a completely political issue, it was not going to Congress, but there were some political involvements with it. By the way, Farrakhan was attempting to grasp the trophy to say, I'm going to lead the African-American community. I think the church wisely had many men go to that to say, the Lord is concerned about your need for atonement for your behavior in your family. The Lord is concerned about you being a better father. Now, let us show you the real power of God through Jesus Christ, so that you can see how you can really have atonement for that, how you can really become a better father. But if we're not engaged at all, we can't even speak to someone on this issue. We just look like we're standing contrary as some apathetic bystander. I think that much at minimum, at that level, we need to be involved.